Welcome back to the channel, guys. For those of you who are new, my name is Elizabeth, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back and for supporting your girl. So in today's video, I am going to be walking you through the tips and the documents that I actually submitted in applying for my Canadian visa. I applied for my Canadian visa and I got it at once. So for those of you that are thinking of applying to Canada or even to any other country, I think it is important to know how to apply for your visa and get it all at once. So stay tuned. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is, once you've applied to that school, or even if it's for a permanent resident application, once you've turned in your application, I think that is the perfect time to start gathering your documents. Yes. Once you turn in your application to that school, or once you've turned in your application to the express entry stream, or even to the northern program, or to whatever program, that is the perfect time to start applying, to start gathering your document, so that when they ask you for it, you have all the document right at hand. Before I go into the document, there's something I'm going to tell you about the Canadian visa process. Don't be too conservative when you're pulling together your documents. Use everything you can lay your hands on, because unlike the United States, Canada does not have an interview process. So once you turn in your application and once you put in your biometric, they do not have any interview process. So you want your documents to speak for you. You want your documents to answer every question that's in the mind of the visa officer once he or she's looking at your document, So you want to use that mindset once you're putting together your documents and applying to Canada. So what document do I need? I know that once you start the process, there are forms that the IRCC would recommend that they require that you fill. Now, in filling those forms, I want to walk you through the additional documents that you would need to back up those funds. We are all aware of proof of funds, sponsorship, your admission letter, that's the admission that you've gotten here, or whatever stream, or even a letter from your employer here. All of those things are standard. So in my case, I used my birth certificate, I used my high school certificate, I put all of those in my application, which is WAEC, NECO, any of those high school certificate that you have. I used my diploma certificate as well, because at this time after high school, I did a diploma and I had a diploma degree. And during my diploma, or I think it was after my diploma, I did like a French school thing just to like while away the time at that time. So I also used that certificate in my application. And these were all before my bachelor's. So once I got my bachelor's degree, I had finished my diploma. I had also finished the French certificate, the French school that I told you, that I just mentioned. So I also used my bachelor's certificate in my application. I then included my NYSC. In my case, I included my NYSC exemption. So if you have your NYSC certificate, you would include your NYSC certificate as well. And after NYSC, I think at this time I was working, but while I was working, I also did Young African Leadership Initiative. It's called YALI. I did like professional development courses with them. I included all of that in my application. And I'll tell you why I did that in a minute. After including my YALI certificate, I also included my Alliance Française certificate. While I was working as well, I also I would go to work in the morning and in the evenings, I would go to Alliance Française. So when I finished from Alliance Française, I think I did the exam and I got like an DELF ADO. I think that's what it's called. DELF A2, it's what it's called. So I put that in it. So why do you include all of these certificates for a visa application? It's not a school application. Why do I need all of that for a visa application? Because you want to let the visa officer know that you are career driven or you are development driven, if that makes sense. Like you have a drive for your personal and career development. You can't just pull out for example, your bachelor's degree and then just use that and forget about the other things that you did before and after that time. So you want to walk them through how life has been for you, when it comes to, education or career and personal development. Now that's that about that piece of it. The other piece of it now is the admission that you've gotten. So I included my letter of admission from my university here in Canada. I also included a letter of explanation. Now, a letter of explanation is very key to your application. I'm going to say that when you write your letter of explanation, you want to tie your letter of explanation to your statement of intent with which you used in applying for your admission here. So you want to tie those two things together. If you want me to do a video on how to write a good letter of explanation, please let me know in the comment section below and I would be willing to do that for you. So your letter of explanation, you add that to your application. Another thing that I would mention that I added is assets. If you have 20,000 naira stock right after school, if you're the type that invests in all of those Nigerian stock exchange platform stuff, even if it's 20,000 naira, even if it's 10,000 naira stock that you have, put the stock certificate in your application, because it tells the visa officer that you have something going for you. If it is, Nigeria, there is a lot of landed property sale that's going on now. Even if it's 200,000 naira, you purchase the land, it does not matter. Just put the receipt in your application. Even if it's the deed of ownership or whatever you have for things like that, include them in your application. As you begin to put those documents together, one thing I need you to ask yourself is this document chronological? Make sure that you put the documents together in a chronological manner. You don't want to put O levels, that's your WAEC certificate, and then the next thing that comes on board is your NYSC certificate, and then after that you have your bachelor's degree, and then after that you have your O levels, all of it all messed up together. No, you want the visa officer to be able to almost read your life reading through all of those documents. There's a document that's from 2006, let the next one be 2007 if there is any, let the next one be 2010, just like that. Make it chronological so that it makes sense for the visa officer that's reading through your documents, and they're not just going all over the place. You want to create a chronological line of thoughts for the visa officer, such that as he's having questions, your documents are answering those questions for them. Now let's talk about siblings or other additional document. I included information from my siblings into my application because I want the Canadian system to know that. And if for whatever reason my sibling were to decide to come visit, I wouldn't have to start thinking about how to prove to the immigration officer that, oh, this person is my sibling, but they could see it from my first attempt to apply to come into Canada, that, oh, this is a brother or this is a sister, and so they can see all of that. So for my siblings, I included their birth certificates, which also showed that we are from the same parents. What level of life are your siblings at the moment? If they're working, include their letter of offer that shows that this person is working and they go by the same name. Or even if the person is married, include their marriage certificates to show that, oh, they used to go by your name, but now they go by another name. And if your siblings are students, include their letter of admission from school that shows that they are in school and this is what they are doing. All of this just speaks to a wholesome application, in my opinion. Like, if I were to be looking at somebody's application and they claim to have siblings, the question that comes to my mind is, how do you convince me that this person is your sibling? Another thing I would include in that situation would be perhaps a photo of myself and my sibling when we were much younger, and a photo of us as adults. So those are the things that I would include in an application, or that I did also include in my application anyways. So let's talk about your sponsor. My sponsor was my mom. I know that people use their uncle, their auntie, their parents, whoever you're using. It's not that difficult. Just convince the visa officer that this is not a sponsor that you just whipped out of the wind. You want to provide a letter from your sponsor saying that they are your sponsor, I would also include perhaps your sponsor's source of income. If they own a business, or if they own a business, maybe the CAC document, I think that's what it's called. Or if they're an employee of somewhere, a letter from their employer saying, oh, this person works with us and blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you cannot provide a letter from their employer, provide their letter of offer or their most recent letter of promotion that shows that this person is an employee of this place. Another thing I would say you could also include could be their business card that shows their name and their affiliation with the company. If you have a photo of you and your sponsor, please go ahead and include it. Those are the things that I included. As much as my mom is my mom, I still included a photo showing that my mom is my mom. Like a photo of myself and my mom when I was much younger, and just added that to my application. Because I mean, the visa officer saying that and also saying my sponsor's international passport can tell that, okay, this person goes by the same name. Their name, don't forget, their name is also on my birth certificate, showing that they are my mother. So all of those documents are very useful information. How about assets from your sponsor? Does your sponsor have any assets? Do they have landed properties? Do they have houses anywhere? Do they have, businesses or any of those things? You could include also the documents for their assets that could also support your application. Now, sometimes the reason why we include documents like this, it's not because your sponsor probably wouldn't have money anymore to sponsor you, but such document, they speak to two things. They speak to proof of funds, because a landed property could be sold to get money. They also speak to home ties. So you want to use documents like that to boost your application. Let's talk about your own account and your letter of offer where you're working. If you're working, you want to include your letter from your employer. You can add that to it, as well as perhaps your statement of account. Now, I would say that in some cases, it is quite difficult to include a letter from your employer because you don't want them to know that you're preparing to leave or you're planning an admission somewhere and all that. But you can include your letter of offer when you got the job, or if you've most recently gotten a promotion from your job, you could include that letter of promotion, including your business card that could show that I work with these people. Now, don't panic if you don't have a business card, but if you do have a letter of offer from your employer, include it in there, as well as your account statement, include it as well. All of this, you do this so that your letter of offer, your employment statement, your assets as a person. Now I'm not even talking about your sponsor. I'm talking about you as a person. All of those convince the visa officer that you have a life going for you. You're only traveling to get maybe more education or to get more skills to get yourself into a better position or whatever the case is. In my case, my mom was my only sponsor, so I didn't need to provide any document from my dad. And also because my dad had passed on as well. But regardless of the fact that my dad had passed on at the time that I was applying for my visa, what I did was I provided, remember that my dad's name was already on my birth certificate. So I provided my dad's death certificate to show that, okay, he had passed on and that's why there is no document here for him. Another thing I did, which could be, it was funny, but it was just necessary, I guess. Maybe not even necessary, but it was funny. Another thing I did was I included a photo of me at my dad's funeral into my application. And I'm like, if that visa officer sees this, so he saw a photo of me at dad's funeral, as well as a photo of dad in the coffin. When the visa officer sees it, it's going to be like, big guy, let's just give this girl the visa. Let her just go. So those were the things that I did. I just want to encourage you guys in this process. Don't be overwhelmed. Just start as early as you can and intentionally write out all of this list of documents that I had provided and start preparing them. Because at the end of the day, even if you don't start preparing them after you've applied to school, you will still need to prepare them once you get the application, or once your PR is approved, or once whatever application whatever stream you're trying to come in through is approved, you still need to provide them. So I think it's much better, make life easy for yourself by preparing those documents as early as you can. So guys, those were the documents that I used when I applied for my visa. And when I applied for my visa, after putting all of these documents in, I think I must have applied in March of that year. That's why I keep saying that plan in advance, give yourself time, get your documents ready such that in Canada application, you start hearing about your application between January and February, and school resumes in September. For those people that have applied for September entry, school resumes in September and you hear back in January, February. If your documents are all ready to go, do all you can to get your application in by February, March, because I mean, I think things are changing now, but I would say don't leave it to chances. Apply as early as you can so that you can have enough time to wait. And if you have to do your medicals, do your medicals. I did not do my medicals up front because I lived in Lagos, and it was much more easier for me when they call me to do medicals to just jump into, VI and get the medicals done. But if you are someone that lives outside of the country, outside of Lagos, or not in Abuja. I know that the two offices are in Lagos and Abuja. If you live outside of those two, states, I think it would make sense for you to probably do an upfront medicals once you go get your biometrics done. So then that would help you to get all your documents in, and then you can just wait till they tell you that your visa is approved. But in all of this process, one major thing that you need is patience. You guys, when I applied for my visa, oh boy, I was so anxious to hear back because I thought it was going to be done in a couple of 1 or 2 months. I never heard back from these guys until I think it was July, since applying since March. I applied since March. I didn't hear back till July of that year. I hope you found 1 or 2 things that could help in this process. So if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know someone that's applying to Canada for their visa or for their schooling, please share this video with them. Let them dot their I's and cross their T's while they are filling their application. One other thing you shouldn't forget is the application form that Canada is going to be giving you, the required form. Please make sure you fill them correctly. Have someone that you trust look over the forms again for you to ensure that the informations are correct and all of that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if there are other contents that you want me to provide regarding this topic or even some other topic. So I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.